My name is Kate Segarra, and I'm a biological oceanographer for the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management in the Department of the Interior. I've been with the Bureau, which we call BOEM, since May 2014, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about my time in the Arctic. In July and August of 2016, I had the opportunity to sail aboard the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Healy as part of the Hidden Ocean 2016, an expedition led by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, from Seward, Alaska, north into the Chukchi Sea. I served as the expedition coordinator for this cruise. I was a liaison for NOAA's Office of Ocean Exploration and Research, the funding office, during the expedition. And as a liaison, I worked very closely with the science party to track mission progress and communicate detailed updates to our colleagues back on shore. Our expedition took us far north into the Chukchi Sea to an area called the Chukchi Borderlands. The furthest north we traveled was 77.5 degrees north, which is still over 700 miles from the North Pole. The primary focus of the Hidden Ocean 2016 was to explore this rapidly changing and poorly understood ecosystem. As a member of the Office of Environmental Programs at BOEM, I provide subject matter expertise in the areas of biology, water quality, marine geochemistry, ecology, fisheries, and protected species. I manage environmental studies funded by the Bureau in these areas, and I also develop policy and assessment documents related to the environmental impacts of energy and mineral development on the outer continental shelf. In the Chukchi Borderlands, water masses from the Pacific, Atlantic, and Arctic Oceans all converge over an area of complex bathymetry, or seafloor shape. The science party of the cruise was led by Chief Scientist Dr. Russ Hopcroft and Dr. Katrin Eichen, both from the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Using traditional oceanographic methods, such as nets, CTDs, box cores, etc., and a remotely operated vehicle, or ROV, equipped with 4K video feed, the science party explored the biodiversity of the Chukchi Borderlands. The U.S. Coast Guard cutter Healy is about 420 feet long and was crewed by about 100 Coast Guard men and women. So for 40 days, our team of scientists, students, technicians, ROV pilots, media professionals, and Coast Guard crew, 141 people in all, worked aboard the Healy to conduct exploration of the Chukchi Borderlands. We observed unexplored habitats and captured undescribed species in a locale that is currently undergoing profound change due to warming temperatures and sea ice loss. Below the Arctic Circle, there's a lot more open water, and here we saw minke, humpback, and gray whales, as well as Dall's porpoise. We also spotted several pinnipeds, such as ring, ribbon, and bearded seals, and sea lions. And this being my first time in the Arctic, a personal goal of mine for this cruise was to see a walrus, and if I was very lucky, perhaps a polar bear. So only hours after crossing over the Arctic Circle, I was on the bridge with the Coast Guard night crew, and we passed through Hannah Shoal in the Chukchi Sea. And Hannah Shoal is a very shallow area famous for being a walrus hotspot, where they come to feed on the many clam beds on the seafloor. And this area features very heavily in our environmental impact assessments here at BOEM. So I'd read about it, but never seen it. So when we came upon Hannah Shoal and the hazy light of the midnight sun, I saw on the horizon what I thought was a bunch of patches of dirty ice. And as we came closer, I realized that these patches were, in fact, walrus, and that this place that I'd known as a walrus hotspot was teeming with them. I saw groups of 10, 20, 30 walrus all together on these little ice floes. I saw a mom and her pup. I saw a walrus swimming together. It was really amazing. And scientists call this collection of walrus a haul out, and they were hauling out not on a beach, but on the ice. So the next day, which was our first day in heavy sea ice, we saw our first polar bear of the expedition. And then the next morning we saw another. It was so incredible, and I was very, very lucky. They were very curious about the ship, and they were standing on their hind legs and smelling the air. Very curious animals. And seeing a polar bear is such a special event on the cruise that when a polar bear is spotted from the bridge, everyone gets a page. So we all carried pagers because our cell phones didn't work out there. So when one is spotted, you get your page and you run down and check out the polar bear and take pictures and video. This entire cruise was a living classroom for me. Nearly all of the species that we observed and collected during the expedition I'd only seen or read about in textbooks and policy documents, so it was truly a unique experience for me. Only 2 days after crossing the Arctic Circle, we started hitting some very thick ice that covered about 8 or 9 tenths of the water surface. So the Healy breaks ice by forcing sea ice under the bow, and then the sharp keel of the ship, or the ice knife at the bottom of the ship, crushes the ice into smaller, more manageable pieces, and we call this brash ice. So in thinner first-year ice, ice breaking is a snap. But when you get into this thicker multi-year ice, and that's ice that can survive more than one melting season, it puts up more of a fight. So when ice this thick, the going is very slow. And to break the ice, you can't just cut the ice in one go with the ice knife. You have to raft up onto the ice, and the weight of this 420-foot ship slowly breaks through the ice and it falls through. And then it backs up a few ship lengths and then gets some momentum and then tries again. So this whole process is called backing and ramming, and it takes a very long time to get anywhere. So we were moving in ice this thick at about maybe a mile an hour, sometimes less. And we spent the next 3 days in our own frozen planet, and hours of plowing through this terrain of ice and scattered melt ponds. And at first the atmosphere was very fun. We were seeing polar bears, we were watching movies, we were getting to know each other. We were making sure that all the equipment was ready to go for the first sampling station. But after about day 3 in the ice, we started having some mechanical issues, and a rudder broke, and then another rudder broke, and one night we traveled a total of 1 mile. So those 4 days stuck in the ice were a little bit like Groundhog Day. The scientist party started trading stories of Arctic expeditions gone wrong. The satellite images give you an idea of how large the ice floe that we were in was. It was about 20 miles across. And on the imagery, you can actually see the scar that the Healy cut through the ice floe while we were meandering around and trying to get out. So I have an entirely new level of respect for those early explorers that didn't have the benefit of modern navigation, satellite imagery, and a huge icebreaker to help them traverse the polar seas. It is truly a harsh environment. One of the most exciting aspects of this cruise was the ROV. It was equipped with ultra-high-definition video, a standard that contained 9 times more pixel information than the cameras that were used back in 2005 in a previous expedition. So this was really a game changer for the science of this mission. It improved resolution so that what previously appeared as marine snow on the screen in 2005 could now be identified as individual zooplankton species. But the real headliners of the Hidden Ocean 2016 expedition were the jellies. There's a diverse array of Medusa jellyfish, siphonophores, which are colonial jellyfish, and ctenophores, or comb jellies, out in the Arctic Ocean. And since fish are relatively scarce, these predators likely form the upper ranks of the food web in the Arctic. Some of the jellies that we saw are well known to science. But during this expedition, we also saw several potential new species that were collected. The jellyfish expert of the science party, Dr. Dougal Lindsay, identified 3 ctenophores that he believes represent an entire new order. That's 4 taxonomic levels above species. To put this in perspective for you, cats, dogs, bears, seals, and walrus are all within a single order, Carnivora. So to find a new order is a major scientific development. During the last Hidden Ocean expedition in 2005, the science party absorbed a bright orange ctenophore that has since been referred to as Mr. Pumpkin. Mr. Pumpkin was reported as likely a new species, but since they weren't able to collect any high-quality specimens, it's never been described. And during this cruise, we observed Mr. Pumpkin at almost every station we visited. And the combination of the increased camera resolution in the ROV, which made it possible to find these colorful creatures, and also the enhanced collection methodology available on the Global Explorer ROV, we were able to collect multiple intact specimens. Now, it will take members of the science party months and maybe even years to write the species description papers for these ctenophores, and it's funny to think about how these strange creatures are still out there floating around waiting to be announced to the rest of the world. These and other discoveries from this cruise will greatly improve the understanding of this underexplored region. I was detailed to NOAA for this cruise, and I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity. The Healy experience will certainly enhance my work at BOEM as an oceanographer, and I've enjoyed sharing my experience with all of you. To learn more about the expedition, please visit the cruise website. And to learn more about the environmental work that we do at BOEM in our Environmental Studies program, please visit our website. Thank you very much.